Hey guys, it's Kenz
and Shell.
Welcome back to the Effortless Podcast.
We have a guest today, and we are super excited to have her here. This is Emily.
Hi.
We love her so much.
I love you guys so much. We're so glad that you're here.
Yes.
Thank you so much.
And when Kenz and I were talking about, our last episode, when we were talking about our last episode of trauma and like overcoming trauma, you were like the first person to pop into our head because of, well, number one, that you're so generous about sharing it.
Yeah.
And number two, how great you are
and
how much you've overcome and like so graciously. And also something that I tell Kenz a lot too, which she will justify, is I always feel like the best Christians are ones that like didn't grow up in Christianity and kind of found it on their own after have going through trauma or some sort of hardship.
Yes.
Because I feel like they understand stuff that like nobody else can understand. They have that just like a really good perspective.
And not like judgmental.
Yes.
Church hurt is a thing. I went through that like just growing up,
Mm-hmm.
baptized in the Greek Orthodox Church. It was very dogmatic.
Mm-hmm.
I just was like going through just the ins and outs of it.
Mm-hmm.
Like even just going to like a regular like Protestant non-denominational church, just sit there and be like, whatever. But like until something like life-altering happens to you,
Mm-hmm.
and you are like hopeless and fearful and defeated, like I don't really think you can feel like the Holy Spirit really until you've been in those situations. And so it was like, I kind of am now, I guess we would say born again, because I was able to just kind of go through what I was going through with like my trauma and just I felt God more when I was like at my lowest point ever.
Yeah.
Instead of just sitting in a pew like reading verses that I had no idea about.
Yeah.
And like, no, I am not alone right now. And just feeling like this incredible warmth.
Mm-hmm.
So I feel like definitely it's taken some time, but I had to go through a lot of these things to get to where I'm at with my faith. And my faith has also been something to help me. So it really has been, it's going hand in hand.
Yeah. Well, going off that, if you don't mind telling us a little bit about your story. So like the trauma that you're talking about and like the hardships that you went through in your childhood and kind of like how it got to where you are now and how it like shaped you.
Totally. So it's just like, I'll try and like dumb it
I know it's probably hard. There's like a lot. Maybe like you can obviously don't share whatever you don't want, but just kind of like the points that you feel really stick out, or if there was like life-changing ones where like the lowest of lows when you're like, wow, something needs to change or something did change or.
Sure. So I'll just give a little background. So my dad got out of rehab like a week before I was born. So like lots of addiction growing up with him struggling. He got fired from his first job, his teaching job when I was in fourth grade. So right around fourth grade was when I noticed that there was stress going on. Yeah. Like he had cheated on my mom before then. And I had like noticed him bringing some women to the house, but I was like super young. So like those don't really think about it and think about that.
Yeah.
But around like fourth grade, I remember him getting let go from his job. Basically, he stole drugs from the nurse's office, a bunch of Adderall, he was a science teacher, like brilliant guy, super good teacher, built like a 10-foot catapult in his science classroom, shot a bowling ball through the other classroom and it almost killed a kid.
Oh my goodness.
And so it was
like creativity.
It was crazy. To build that. He was like a super in the 90s. I feel like there was way more like freedom for teachers.
Oh, for sure.
What they wanted to do. And so he comes home and I remember it just being super, super stressful. He was devastated, but it came out that like he was stealing a whole, like every drug in that office.
And before, backing up a little bit, because he didn't have addiction problems his whole life, right?
He actually did.
Oh, he did. Okay.
So he was sexually assaulted as a kid.
Okay.
Like at 8 years old. And then he started drinking when he was 14. And so he grew up drinking. And then my grandparents, old school from Greece, my grandpa was super just, I guess, emotionally, verbally abusive. just wouldn't talk to him about what was going on. So he was very suppressed. Yeah. Kind of would just keep things to himself. And then he found alcohol and got.
And back then, I feel like, especially for boys, I feel like you don't really talk about it.
It's totally hush.
Yeah.
Yes.
Or like kind of like it wasn't as bad as you thought, or like whatever.
Yeah. Yep. So he just kind of went through life just drinking, not just a little bit, but like on the weekdays, would drink tons on the weekend. And so it just kind of carried through to like my childhood. I remember him stashing like fifths of vodka bottles like in the lawnmower bag. So there'd be vodka bottles in the lawnmower bag. There'd be beer cans in the back of his truck. Like
again, creativity.
Yeah.
And creativity.
Listerine bottles because there's alcohol.
Oh, yeah.
Like this man would sniff glue to make him high, like towards the end. And that's literally like how bad it got.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So it all started like elementary school. And then he just kept getting fired from jobs. He got a car salesman job. He got fired. He stole $20,000 and blew it on cocaine, essentially.
Were your parents married during this time?
They were. And then my mom decided to go back to school. So she was going to nursing school. So I was home a lot with my brother and sister. And then just like...
Are you the oldest?
I am.
Okay.
Yeah. Yep.
I feel like you can tell. Like she's definitely the oldest. Vibes.
Oh my
gosh.
It's all a facade.
So yeah, the addiction just started. It just progressing. He'd go to rehab down in California for like 2 or 3 weeks at a time, come back, relapse. I'll just speed up a little bit. High school came to a head. He was stealing money from my mom. Like I walked into her room one time and she was like 95 pounds, super stressed out, depressed, on the ground. She's in her nightgown and her jewelry box is open and it's empty because he had pawned all of it, like jewelry from like her family. And that was super heartbreaking. I was, I think, a sophomore. She was in school and like he was in and out of the house, living out of a car for a while. And so I think I just started then to really, the codependency started where I was like a big people pleaser. I would literally just do anything to make anybody like me. Just try to hold everybody together in the house.
Yeah.
I think starting with like my mom.
Yeah.
And I see like even looking back in like my 20s, how like that just really fueled my codependency and low self-esteem.
Sure.
Like the guys I was looking for, I was like, I didn't care if they were good. I just wanted attention.
Yeah.
I didn't, it really, until like my early 30s was when I really started like paying attention to what I was looking for.
Yeah.
So I just was needing that love. And it started like, I think with my mom and just trying to hold a family together. I think one really like defining moment besides like seeing my mom like that was having, we had 2 different sets of drug dealers come to the house. I was like, I think a junior in high school. I remember one morning my mom had she was working a shift at the hospital. My dad was gone. I don't know where he was. I woke up and I like see this big man outside our front door, big bearded man, probably 6'3". He starts pounding on the door. Like it's like 7:30 in the morning. I'm like, okay, this is weird. I'm not going to answer. And then we get phone calls and he's basically threatening to like kill, like, and rape me and my sister.
Oh my gosh.
She's a little girl. She is probably 6 years old.
Was your dad home at the time?
No. I have no idea where he was. No, I think I have no idea.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah.
That's terrifying.
It was terrifying. I grab my sister because she starts waking up. I hide in the kitchen and get down like so that he couldn't see us. And there's 2 men and they're walking around the backyard and like circling around the house. They're looking in the sliding glass door, banging on the door, like, we're going to get in. It's just my dad owed them money. My dad had owed them money for months. And they knew where we lived. So I called 911. They got taken away. But they couldn't do anything because
they didn't technically break in or something.
So this kept happening.
With the same people?
until finally they met my dad at work. He was working at this like car rental place in by Portland. And I don't know what happened, but I think my dad got an assault charge because I think he like, I don't know what happened. I don't know the details, but we didn't see them anymore.
Gosh,
and
that's so scary.
It was terrifying. So just that one really stood out. Another example, my dad took my little sister at the time to a drug dealer's apartment.
Oh, gosh.
And she ended up staying the night.
Oh my gosh, that's terrifying.
And that was like, I told him I was done. Like, I can't talk to you.
Yeah.
I went a few years without talking to him.
How old was your sister at the time?
She was like 7 years old, 8.
Yeah, that's crazy.
Yeah.
And then at this point, your parents are still together?
My mom was filing for divorce and getting a restraining order. I think that poor woman, she just wanted to get to the point where she was like a little financially stable.
Sure.
Yeah. Yeah.
And she's like just trying to just do everything she could to keep the house.
Yeah.
Yeah. And such a hard position to be in because I feel like there's a lot of stigma that goes into addiction, but it's not like your dad like wanted to keep doing the things he was doing. It's just like kind of takes over.
Totally. And that is what made it so hard because I was so close with him growing up. And like, if I had to choose between like my mom and dad growing up, I would have gone to him for anything.
Yeah.
Like just his charisma. He's one of those people you talk to him and he's just like, you can tell him anything.
Yeah.
The man's been through hell and he just has this incredibly like humble perspective. I got pregnant when I was 17 and I literally went to his apartment. Like he had gotten his own apartment and I went to him first. I'm like, I don't even know if he's sober, but I like have to go to this man. And he was super helpful. And I think that's kind of why I struggled through my 20s is because I had this relationship with my dad who was not
like
stable.
Who you're looking up to.
Looking up to, and he wasn't stable.
And really hard as a 20-year-old to like put up those boundaries to like keep yourself separate. Like that's super hard to do.
It was really hard to do.
Yeah.
And I didn't realize this until my late 20s was like, there's just such a fine line between like codependency and love.
Yeah.
Like it was just heartbreaking. So every time he'd relapse, it would just be the biggest letdown. He relapsed after my son was born, got fired from a job, and was doing tons of heroin. And it was no secret. Like, I knew, but he just kept lying. And I'm like, I can't talk to you until you're actually sober. Until you're sober.
And it's hard too, because I feel like every time they relapse, you kind of like think of it in a way, or you can like internalize it. Like, why can't you just be sober for us? Like, if you can't do it for yourself, like, aren't we enough? Or like my kid, now his grandchild, like, it's such a bummer, but it's like, that's how strong like addiction can be.
It's a chokehold. And it's, he told me one time, he was like, it's like breathing. He goes, I needed dope. Like I needed a breath. And he's like, and it's always been this way. And I'm so glad he's at the point now where he's been sober for 3 years.
Which is so cool. And you've been able to like have some of a relationship, right?
Yes.
That's cool.
Yes. Yeah. So now I'm like kind of figuring out how can I have let my kids have a relationship with him, but also like if he does relapse again, like I don't
there's still have to be those boundaries, but like how are they different now?
Exactly.
Yeah.
So I like let him come over like once every few months. So like my son knows who he is, but I also like it's not going to be all the time.
Yeah.
Just in case. Yeah. Like until you're like it's even longer that you've been sober, like I'm just gonna have to do that for a while. But it's hard.
Yeah. And how do you feel? Okay, so obviously that was like a huge part of growing up, like these super traumatic events and like all the trauma that happened with your dad. And then how do you feel like those kind of formed your early romantic relationships, like as a young female?
Girl. They were all a mess.
Yeah. I mean, and it's like, how could they not be in a sense? Like you're searching for like love or like just you need that male attention, right?
Yes. So I'll talk about this one particular relationship that really like stands out to me. So this guy, I met him at school, and was like instantly like, he's my guy. He is my guy. 11 years older than me. Like,
how old were you at the time?
I was like 23.
Okay.
I was infatuated. So anyway, he starts talking to me. Turns out he went to freaking AA with my dad.
Oh my gosh. How did you find that out?
We started talking and he was
Oh my gosh. I did not know that.
Small world. What
Wow.
is that? Oh my gosh. So I was like, do you want to like go get a drink or something? Because he started talking to me after class.
Yeah.
He's like, I actually don't drink. And I was like, oh, that's cool.
Yeah.
I know tons of people that don't drink.
Yeah.
Like, I like, why don't you drink? He's like, I'm actually in AA. I'm like, yeah, so is my dad. Like, so is my aunt. Like, so is all these people.
Yeah.
I used to hang out at AA as a kid,
Yeah.
like, and play their little play.
Oh my gosh.
So it's like, I get that.
Yeah,
Big
like-
book. Hell yeah.
Oh my
So,
gosh.
and I was like, my dad goes to AA, and he's like, oh yeah, like which one? And I like told him, and he goes, oh, what's his name? And I like told him, and he's like, no shit. Like so this guy, I
Oh my gosh.
loved him. Turned it out to be super dysfunctional. Go
Mhm.
figure. Go figure. Abusive in every way. Physical, emotional,
yeah.
everything. Turned out just being me almost getting a concussion.
Wow.
Getting thrown out of his condo. Like it was bad. Super, super, super bad. Miscarried. It was awful.
Mhm.
After that, I had to pick up the pieces. Like I had graduated from college. I moved back with him, who lived in Gresham.
Mhm.
And I was like, you know what? I'm going to go be a nurse. Like, I'm just going to go back to school.
Mhm.
I felt so low, like, ended up paying his rent
Mhm.
after he threw me out because that's how codependent I was. I literally wrote him like a $1,400 check and left it next to our bed after I got all of my stuff out. Like, that's just how, like, sad I was.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And how much I just wanted to be loved and
Yeah.
my low self-esteem. I look back and I'm like, this poor girl. Like
Mhm.
this poor girl. And I thought I was doing all right.
Yeah.
I really I was struggling. So
Was there
hard.
something like specific that like made you realize like, okay, this is not okay? Or was it just like eventually over time you were, because I feel like a lot of people never actually get
Yeah.
out of it or can't figure out on their own. And you didn't sound like
Yeah.
you knew any different.
So
So like,
I think
Mm.
going back to school, I've always had very low like self-esteem when it came to like academics.
Yeah.
Like I never felt like I was smart. I always
Mhm.
felt a little bit like kind of a scatterbrain.
Mhm.
I went back to school and I got like all A's. I like got my CNA. I was like doing really well. I was living with my mom. I had no money. Like I was still choosing shitty guys, but I was getting like straight A's.
yeah.
And that is something I never got before.
Yeah.
Like
Mhm.
I felt really smart. And then I noticed the people I was with started to change. Like I was with people that like had good husbands.
Yeah.
And then my
Mhm.
friend group completely
Mhm.
changed. And I'm
Mhm.
still friends with these people to this day. And it's your people that you surround yourself with is huge.
Yeah.
Mhm.
It leveled up once I decided I wanted to be on a different career path.
Mhm.
And so I just continued with school. And then I think it just continued to get better and better.
Yeah.
But I
just like see all the potential kind of opening up for you.
Exactly. But it started at the bottom. Like I couldn't even fill up my gas tank. I had no money.
Yeah.
Like once he literally threw me out and I had to go back to my mom's and I had paid the money I had for rent.
Yeah.
And that was it. And that was like, okay, it's time to start over. Like you're going to go back to school. You just got done, but that's okay.
Yeah.
I signed up to do like an internship in South Africa. So I went to South Africa for a few months and worked. And like, I feel like being at the bottom, I looked up and there were just so many opportunities. I just
Mhm.
had to keep taking one step after the other.
At that time, did you realize like all the things that you had been through, like was that just like circumstances that you felt like happened to you, or do you feel like, wow, I've been through this trauma and it was for a reason? Or like, how did you get from, because you didn't grow up in like a religious household at all,
Yeah,
really?
Not really. No.
But like, how do you feel like all of that, once you got to your like rock bottom,
Mhm.
so to speak, like how did you turn your mind around to like eventually go towards a religion, or like how did you even come to that conclusion to do that?
So it's kind of, that's a good question. I think in my heart, I've always been a Christian. I
Mhm.
think I remember going to church as a kid, like, and feeling emotional, just like listening to the sermon.
Yeah.
And I turned away from it after having some experiences with a boyfriend. Actually, his grandmother called me Jezebel. Like she hated me.
Which is like so sad.
I know.
It's so crazy. You've told me this story and you can tell it if you want, but I feel like for an adult to say that from a young girl who's like literally it was like, I mean, the circumstances that went around when she said that to you is like heartbreaking, and it's almost like I'm laughing because it's like so
wild.
ridiculous.
Isn't it ludicrous?
Yeah, for an adult to do that, like, how dare you? That's so mean.
Not very exactly. Pretty sure Jesus wouldn't have done that. I remember being at this boyfriend's house. It was my very first boyfriend, and a very religious family. And I remember being downstairs when all like the deacons, everybody, like the uppers in the church were all upstairs with this grandmother in there. She was talking about me, saying like, "Oh, the apple doesn't fall far from the tree. Her dad does drugs. Like, comes from a terrible." And I was just like, "Gosh, you guys are shitty."
Yeah. Like how mean.
Yeah.
Like taking you in.
Like what a great opportunity. Yeah.
Yes. And so after that, I was like, maybe this isn't like what I thought. You know? So then I started going down kind of the path of like the new age, like occult, like witchy. It's dumb.
What was your experience with that?
It's dumb. It's dumb.
Or that's always like intriguing.
I know.
Like, I'm like, what does that even mean?
It means nothing. It literally so I did the tarot card readings. I would charge my crystals at every full moon.
For what? What is the like meaning behind that?
That it's gonna like give you like, you're going to manifest whatever you want in life, and this energy from these crystals or whatever, it's going to give you what you want. But it's all about manifestation. Essentially, what it does is it just gives you power. It just makes you feel like
you can do these things that you can't.
Yeah. But we're humans.
Yeah.
And we
need God.
We need God. Like, we need God. Like, all that's bullshit.
Yeah.
And I was that girl. In the Bible, it tells you not to be like tarot card, like just everything. I'm like,
but also like, I mean, in your defense, like, why wouldn't you be trying any and everything you could to make yourself feel better about your situation? And
it was just kind of an identity.
Totally.
I had like jet black hair. I dressed the part. I got like even some tattoos. I was really into like learning pagan religion. I don't think I actually believed in like the pagan gods, but I thought it was interesting.
Yeah.
But it was lonely.
Yeah.
And it doesn't do anything. And one day I was like, you know what? I think there was like a shooting. There was something that happened where there was like a shooting in a hospital or something. And I was like, what if that were me? Who would I pray to? I wouldn't pray to the moon.
Yeah.
I wouldn't like, it would be to Jesus Christ.
Yeah.
Like,
you just knew that.
I knew.
Yeah.
Like, deep down, like, girl, you know. Like, just, and it was the church hurt. And it was just me trying to figure out my own way and not give them any satisfaction. But no, like, really, like, I had to choose him. And the last few years, it just became really apparent, like being a parent, kind of seeing what was going on in the world after COVID. I was like, there really is evil in this world. And I think it's just something that you feel.
Yeah.
Like, it's hard to convince like a skeptic or a non-believer until you feel it.
Yeah.
I'm not going to judge anybody. Obviously, I've been there. Like, I'm struggling with my husband about this whole thing. And I'm praying that he changes his heart someday. But I know, like, it's just something I feel. And I was able to talk to Shelly about it, like when she was training me at work. And I also feel like ever since I made that commitment or like professed it out loud, like, no, this is it. Like, I've noticed that people in my life have changed. I'm getting more and more people who are believers, and it's just so crazy how God works like that. Yeah, for sure.
And what a good story you have. Like, I mean, like coming out the other side of it, like looking back, like, that's like your testimony is could be so touching for so many people,
and like give a lot of hope for
people.
Thank you. It's really like, I think the main things I would say is just like, don't give up on yourself. Don't do this alone, and don't be afraid to pray about it. Like, there's support if you look for it. I know, I think some people probably have more difficult circumstances than me, obviously, but there really is support if you pray about it. It does get better.
Tell us about your life now on a happy note, because you have two super cute kiddos.
My life is insane, but in a good way. I'm sleep deprived. But it is amazing. I never thought that I would have an amazing husband, 2 kids, a great career. Like, I'm living that life. Yeah. That I never thought I would ever have. Like, as hard as it gets, I'm still so grateful. Yeah. Like, I can't, I have noticed, and like literally last night was crying to my husband about this, just like how trauma has like really come out postpartum. Yeah. We have a 5-month-old girl and a 3.5-year-old son. It has really come out. So I'm just like, what steps do I need to take now since I'm kind of struggling? And so probably have to get back on medication maybe for a little bit, or like just even making self-care more of a priority. Yeah. Because I think, like, Mackenzie, you probably know, like, losing yourself in motherhood, like, it is a real thing. For sure. And like, I can spend all day like doing massages and taking a bath. But it's like, no, I don't even know if it's that. Like, it's like, I need to be able to have an opportunity to just do something for me. Yeah. So I go back to work soon. And so I think that will feel good. It does feel good. I feel like every mom has to have like their own thing going on. Because it's like, of course you love your kids and you want to be with your kids. Yeah. But also it's like, your kids are not you, like your identity is not your kids. Right. So it's like to be able to have your own thing and feel confident and like good about yourself. Yes. Just overflows into like, for sure, your motherhood. It makes me 10 times better of a mom. Oh my goodness. So yeah, just making more of an effort to like being able to work out. Like the other day, baby girl slept for 2.5 hours. I could fit in a workout. Yeah. I showered. It's like crazy how much that makes a difference.
Feels so good.
You just need that. I have to do it. And I think I was so stuck on like, oh, if I can't finish it, I'm not even going to start it. Yeah. Like, girl, just like start it. Just start it. See what happens. Still feel better. Yeah. Yeah. So just and being gentle on myself too. Like the house doesn't have to be spotless. Yeah. What are you doing? Yeah. Like you have, it's okay. You have feral little animals in there. Like, like it's okay. Also like ask for help. Like it's so hard because I don't do that. I just think every new mom should know, like, it's just ask for help. Yeah. And don't have such high expectations on yourself. So it's one of the hardest times in my life, but we'll get through it. Yeah. And pray about it. Right. But yes, I am very blessed.
Well, thank you so much for sharing your story. We so appreciate it.
You came in and talked to
I know.
It was awesome.
Yes.
Anything else?
I don't think so. Your freckles are very evident. They're so cute. I love your freckles. Yeah.
It's really nice of you.
They're so cute.
Okay, well, yeah. Well, thanks, Emily. Absolutely. And thanks for having me. Yeah. Awesome. Thanks for joining us on the Effortless Podcast. Don't forget to like and subscribe. Find us on Instagram at Kenz and Shell, and we will see you next week.
Follow them. Bye.